During that time when Miles was innovating and going through that criticism, how did you see him handle it?
Miles Davis taught all of us in all of his bands a number of great things about being musicians, being artists, presenting the music, and following your dream and desire for the music. There were a couple of times we played a few places and the people were very rowdy. I mean, I can remember playing in Venice, Italy, and we were late. We were 2 hours late because the equipment had to get there by boat. So the equipment was late. So we started playing and the people started throwing things on the stage. And he walked around to each one of us and said, play through it. In typical Miles Davis fashion, play through it. And that was the first time I realized that the music is actually more powerful than the people. And in the end, it's one of the things that tames, cultivates, and gives intellect to the people. So his thing was, if they're not ready for it now, they'll catch up, but keep going. It's like running a race. If you're in the lead, the people behind you, they'll eventually get across the finish line. And once you get across the finish line, you stop anyway, so then they catch up. So one of the most important lessons from that was, if your heart is in it, keep following your heart. And then the people will eventually feel the heart.
It seems like a lot of your learning, I guess, was through Miles in terms of you becoming an artist and musician. So were there any particular notes of advice that he gave you as your role in the band or as a drummer?
Yes. Knowing Miles Davis, you would know that he doesn't speak in complete paragraphs, complete stories. He gives you room to interpret. Miles Davis speaks as if you might be reading the Bible. You have to interpret it. And every time you interpret it, it's a different slant on the same thing. When I first started with Miles Davis, I was a great admirer of jazz and the jazz greats. And because of that, I didn't always let people know that I embraced the other forms of music as heavily as I did. Miles Davis, the first thing he said to me was, listen to James Brown, Chambers Brothers, Jimi Hendrix, and Sly Stone. Now, this is coming from a jazz icon. Now, yes, I heard these people and I embraced them, but I didn't think it was cool to embrace them at the time. But then Miles said that, now it's cool. Once I did that, that opened a whole new world up for me in terms of the approach to playing drums as it relates to jazz, as it relates to the world, as it relates to music in totality. Little did I know he was opening me up for the new eras of jazz, which incorporated all of those elements. It incorporated the rock elements, the fusion elements were R&B, rock, and electronics with improvisation. And that improvisation not only being straight ahead jazz, but also avant-garde. So Miles opened me up to all of those things. He had the tradition, and he always kept hold of the tradition, but he also opened himself up for all of the new things. So that was the first thing I learned. And then in terms of drumming, he made one statement to me that made me think a different way. And he said, every time you start something, you don't have to finish it. That's an option. Now, based on interpretation, you can take that and slant it a number of different ways. That also means you don't have to start in the same place. If you never start in the same place, you're already at a different juncture when you begin. If you start something and don't finish it, it becomes a different statement.
Right.
You know, so that changed my approach to playing drums.